Yep. Oh. Sorry,
Oh.
I pressed the wrong.
Oh, here, you didn't need to do that.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I thought I needed to press the button.
No, no.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you
Yeah,
there.
you're fine.
Well, now you have that little blurb.
We're good, we're good.
Okay, good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. This is Thursday, September 14th, 2023. The Historic Area Commission, if each commissioner could state their name.
Kevin Wade.
Kara Hayward Olivas.
Lisa Doak. And Layla Hamlin Arthur.
Right, so we have a quorum. We cannot approve the minutes from the last time we met because Lisa was absent. And today we have Justin absent, so I'd like to put a motion to move the approval of the minutes for our next meeting.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. So we have 184 East 4th Street. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this, Layla?
I mean, or do you want to?
Or would you like to
Is that what you
tell
want
us
to
a
do?
little bit about your
Are you
project?
representing the owner or are you the owner?
Yeah.
Would you like to speak to us?
Sure. So I'm Carmela Longobardi. I live at 184 East 4th Street. And I would like to put up a fence and I would like to put up a shed. I think I submitted the paperwork. And maybe some pictures. I think it goes with the house. I think it goes with the town. And it's, I have the room for it.
And then the fence that you propose, the back of the wood fence with the pictures and the side and front fence would be this aluminum, but this pattern that we see in the picture, right?
Yes.
It's sort of like, it looks a little bit like
I'm using a fence company that has done some fencing for the Odessa Historic Society, so he said that it had been approved by their board, and so that's why I went with what he provided me.
and will be sort of the same as looking at that with the sort of little point ends of the pieces and. Because it mimics, it's an oval, but it does mimic nicely.
It does.
The shed is wood, and from the perspective of the guidelines, it sort of meets all of the guidelines in terms of the materials. I think the one thing is you have to talk to the positioning of the shed, which seems to be recessed. Now you have your shed on the first drawing is shown further back, and on the second drawing it's shown closer to the house.
Yeah, I would like to do it closer to the house.
15 feet from the house, right?
Yeah. So it would be up closer to the road rather than all the way in the back. Is that, yeah, I changed my mind.
And how many feet back from the fence? From the road?
I can't give you that, but it would be wherever the house stops. That's where it would be lined up.
For you to line it with the corner of the wall.
Yes.
I mean, typically it is better to have the shed a little bit further back from the house, because then they really see it as a secondary appurtenance, as opposed to when they're too close to the house, they kind of conflict with reading the house. So that's the only recommendation I have would be to have it perhaps a little further back. So it reads as a secondary shed as opposed to a primary. That would be the one. And then the walkway. It's brick, right, yeah.
Right now, all there is some pavers that isn't even a walkway. So I understand that before the previous owner moved the walkway, she wanted something meandering, but they're squares.
Yeah.
So, it was a walkway that came straight down, so I'd like to kind of go back to that.
And it'd be brick material, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah, so from my perspective, the only thing we need to say, well, I think the positioning of the shed would be better served being a little bit further back. But the materials, both for the shed, the railing, the fencing, and the walkway are all.
The only concern I have about the aluminum fence is I believe that's a material that we've rejected before.
We had rejected because the design was very modern.
Okay,
The what for, at least for the Joe Day, that one, we had said have something that matches more.
Okay.
pleasure, so.
perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we were being consistent with
Yeah.
that, but that,
And we can do a double check of the guidelines on a contributing house. I think you do have them there, so perhaps a double check.
While you're working at that detail, can I ask a question? When you say further back for the shed, do you have a recommendation on like the footage backwards back there or?
Yeah, it would be just sufficient so that it, I mean, if you look at your site plan. You can like the bit further in the back. But I think what I would say is at least you see. If you're there, it's sort of reading as a secondary, and this is kind of the central area. By being here, you're sort of really close. I'd say you're what, there about 5 feet. You can have like about a 5 foot
Okay.
setback, and that should be fine.
Okay. That's good.
And
Can I see the picture that you have of the shed?
in your, yeah, sure, you want to look at the, in here?
Yeah, I want to see because I did make the change on the location. I want to make sure.
I think it's good for the, I just want to double check. for the- Walls and fencing. You said the use of all the materials and contemporary in design may be appropriate on rear elevations which are not visible. No, you're fine. It's page 119.
oh.
Yeah, so we say the use of alternate materials such as hollow tube, metal, chain link, or vinyl fencing on elevations visible from public right of way is not appropriate. You know, we'll say barbed wire, concertina, and we'll say contemporary fences in design. But we don't specifically exclude aluminum in the sense that this is because it's not, the other one had been very modern in design.
Actually, I think that aluminum fence, that model is throughout town. I may be wrong, and I don't know if it's aluminum, but they said now it's really hard to even find a steel one. Most of the time they're made with aluminum. But I don't know that to be true.
You can find wrought iron, you can find wrought iron that's,
You can?
yeah, you have to sort of look, but you can actually find it. I think it's just. Cause I mean, chain link and vinyl fencing and hollow.
And it's
metal,
coated
that's very
black,
specific.
excuse me, and it's black, right?
Yeah. It is.
we have remaining questions?
Just double check and make them be comfortable with the aluminum fence.
Would this be considered a hollow
Yeah,
tube
that's-
metal?
Not exactly considered, I mean,
Because it'd be hollow in the
yeah,
middle.
but wrought iron also, when you have the tubing, it is, I think hollow tube metal is more intended, like, you know, those metal posts that have the weave amongst them. In the sense, this, particularly this fence with, this is very much like the picket with the intermittent pickets would not be considered that. And I'm trying to think about, I think. The batty, where they had wanted to put something very different in terms of fencing.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about.
And I think what we can do is we can approve everything. And then just, if it would be okay with you, just do a confirmation or consistency on the fence and just do that as a tier one as a follow-up. If there's any doubt about it, so then you can move on everything else and then we can have a tier one conversation on the fence. You have to come to Hatch because the shed is considered an addition. All the others could be a tier one, so I think if there's any uncertainty we wanna have, then approve everything else and then.
I think we should double check on the aluminum. Just to make sure we're being consistent on, just throughout, because I know there's been a couple other fences that have come before us in the past year, and I just want to double check that we're not approving something here that we didn't approve then.
Okay.
So as far as the setback of the shed from the house, or the location of 15 feet, are we moving that a little bit further out?
Yeah, we're saying like moving it more towards the back of the property and perhaps having a setback of 5 feet or 6 feet from the rear of the property, then it really makes it secondary in terms of the secondary approach. Because is this the model that you're sort of putting in? Is this it's based on the pictures, that's something that you're
Yeah.
putting on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so-
the front of it.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fairly significant if you put it back close to the house. So I think with having it further away, it'll actually let the house kind of breathe and
Okay.
have that in the back.
Okay, I can do that. That's what I originally had thought to do.
Yeah, which is what you have on the. on the plans, yeah.
So now in tier one, I'm taking up all your time today.
Now, a tier one just means that we will communicate directly with you through Marika, through the city and say, confirm if it's okay, or if not, you and I can talk about, you know, an alternate fence. And then you don't have to wait a whole month to come back to the commission.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
So we're approving the shed with a 5 or 6 foot setback from the
Here.
rear. We're approving
The wood privacy fence.
the wood privacy fence. And
The brick walkway.
the brick walkway.
And the metal railing will be revisited as a tier one.
Anyone else have any other?
Let's frame it as a motion.
So I'd like to put forth a motion to approve the proposal for 184 East 4th Street, the new construction of the shed, 5 or 6 feet from the rear of the property, the wooden privacy fence, the brick walkway, and moving the metal railing to be revisited as a tier one. A second,
Have a second on that?
all those in favor?
Aye. That's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, it was certainly nice, my first experience.
Have a good evening.
You too, thank
So
you.
our future customers.
Thank you.
Building,
There.
right, that's the only item on the agenda, right?
Mhm.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
There's no public comment. There's no public here to comment. Does anyone else have anything?
I still want to talk about piping in the town. But I'd like to do that in front of a full panel because
Okay.
it is important and it shouldn't just be a, casual. Let's either say it's okay to do that stuff without checking with us in detail, or it's not okay, but I believe for the integrity and our reputation, when we give people difficult news, we have to treat everyone in the same way. But Marika, put it on next month's agenda if you will. Will you agree to that, please?
I'm not Marika, I'm sorry, Kathy.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think
Yeah,
we could-
you'll have to,
Yeah,
when
we
you,
can add that
add
to
it
the
to the
agenda.
Carol, that's okay.
Make sense to do that.
Yeah, we need to have 5 people here. We need to have a hearty and robust discussion.
Okay, we put that,
And if we don't get to it because of absences in October, then November, then eventually it has to get addressed. So
Yeah.
it
So-
affects every homeowner in the town.
the only thing is the next meeting is the 12th, right? And actually that's a meeting where I will not be here. I mean, I will address all of the reviews and things like that, and I can potentially call in, but I will not be here. So if you would like me to be here just for the history of the conversations, then you could do it in November. If you think you just want to discuss them amongst yourselves.
No, we may have a resolution. So, I mean, you should be here to contribute.
So
You're not going to be here. Okay. Well,
Yeah, I'm traveling that
So
week.
we'll put
well,
that,
these things happen.
we'll put that on the November agenda.
Yeah, I will
Is
be
that-
here.
November.
And what I will do is I'll pull together the information
Yes.
that of all the stuff, all the work that I did with the city, the conversations, and get from Jeff so that you kind of have a framework.
Right.
And we'll have it distributed to everybody, so you can have a bit of a history of what was said and the types of things that were discussed. So that
What
will have
was
back.
promised to the homeowner as far as handling
Yeah,
and requests and hiding of the.
Well, there's a whole multitude of problems with how this is run out for
Absolutely.
homeowners. You can just walk down any street and talk to people, and they'll tell you their own little private story. Our purview doesn't extend to how the town does its business or these various contractors do theirs. We can't speak to that. We can make an observation. I mean, they broke my gate. You had problems, I believe, in your property. Other people have had problems.
We actually did not have problems, but I have heard there were
Okay.
other people that
please,
had
you
that.
mentioned your wall, I think
Yeah.
it needs to be a wall.
And different people have had different experiences.
Mhm.
And when you see the crew working, you say, well, can I talk to who's in charge? Either everyone's in charge or no one's in charge. Because the next day when something went wrong, the person will say, well, that wasn't
Then
me.
no one-
I don't do that thing. That's somebody else. So there's a whole coordination and information aspect to advise people on the street. This is what's going to be happening in the next 10 days. If you have a difficulty with anything, call these numbers. But that's not our purview. That's a matter of how you organize things, and it's not organized, but that's not our purview. Right? So, but we can talk about whether or not it changes the streetscape
Absolutely, and
and how to remedy best that consistent with
I
our
think,
charter.
I think if this is the conversation we're having, then Jeff Bergstrom needs to be
Yeah.
here as well as Bill Barthel.
Yeah, just to explain what
Yeah.
the program is, because they were, as I said, they were methods put in place to conceal these. Which were, planters were appropriate, or lattice work were appropriate, or, anything you typically do on a streetscape and to make them less obvious, so.
But
it's
my
not
next door
being
neighbor
implemented.
has lattice work and he said, I want to use my lattice work. I said, no, can't do it. So
Well, that's it, so. it's a
there's no one
question of
there, there's no one there
implementation.
enforcing anything.
It's a question of implementation, yeah.
Right.
Because as I said, we even talked with them and they were gonna put stickers, they knew that's where the counter was and they could remove the lattice work or flip the lid or something like that. We had that conversation. Yeah, I think it'll be a good.
But now we have weeks and weeks and weeks of experience. So we're informed by our experiences. Fair enough.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to put a motion to end the meeting.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
And still daylight.
I know. I was walking the other day, I was like, what? It's night already?